Good Tuesday morning. My name is Anna Palmer. I'm co-author of the Politico Playbook. I'm joined by my co-author, Jake Sherman. And welcome to a special edition of the Playbook interview, Election Countdown. Joining us this morning is House Democratic Whip Jim Clyburn of South Carolina and former Attorney General Eric Holder, who now is chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. You can follow this conversation on social media using the hashtag Politico Election Countdown and share your questions by tweeting at Politico Live.
What an election it's been so far, and what a next month it will be. The contours of this contest between the president, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden continue to be upended almost every day. As we sit here less than 30 days before the election, President Trump and a growing number of his inner circle, practically his entire inner circle, have been diagnosed with COVID-19. Biden, who had largely been off the campaign trail, is now on the stump. He was in Miami yesterday, and he's going to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania today. There are increasing concerns about absentee voting and access to the polls. We're going to talk about all of these things and a few quick news of the day questions at the top. So let's get started.
All right, well, Congressman Clyburn, we've got a lot to talk about with regard to the election and voting, but we have to start with news of the day questions. The coronavirus continues to rage, and it has now infiltrated the U.S. Capitol. 3 senators have been diagnosed with COVID-19. There's been a hesitancy from Democratic leadership to implement mandatory testing. Where do you stand on this? Do you think the Capitol should have mandatory testing for members and some staff?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to the two of you. I understand from this morning's news that you all may be looking towards greener pastures, but congratulations on a good run here. But let me say this. Nancy Pelosi is a great speaker. I meet with her often. We spent some time on the telephone on yesterday. She consults with the attending physician very often. I do too. Both our offices are directly above the attending physician's office. So we come in contact with him every day. I was on the phone with him on yesterday. She is following his guidelines. They are the scientists. They tell us what to do and when to do it. Even when I get ready to have hearings, I consult with them and I carry out those hearings the way they ask me to do. So I am going to listen to them and be guided by what they tell us to do.
There's been some grumbling, and we want to get to the voting issues very quickly here, but there's been some grumbling about the attending physician, whether he's making the right decision here. I know you're following the guidelines. I work in the Capitol, as you know, every day. I feel like it's, quite frankly, a stupid decision that the attending physician is making. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know whether you're wrong or right. Okay. I know this. I'm very comfortable with doing what the attending physician tells me to do. I do the same thing with all my doctors. I tell people all the time, when you're paying these big bills that the doctors charge, listen to them. So whatever they tell me to do, that is what I'm going to do, irrespective of how I may feel about it. I'm going to the dentist in the morning. I don't want to hear what he's going to tell me, but I'm going to do exactly what he says.
All right, fair enough. Attorney General Holder, one of the things that we wanted to just talk to you briefly about is there has been a lot of criticism of late about the current Attorney General, Bill Barr, and his politicization of the Department of Justice on behalf of President Trump. Can you give us your take?
Well, I think Bill Barr's gone beyond politicizing the Justice Department. I think he's weaponized the Justice Department. By using the department to, do things in a favorable way for people who are allies of the president. That's unprecedented. The way in which he has talked about everything from voting to social issues. He has clearly put the Justice Department on the side of this president. He is an integral part of the president's reelection effort. And this, people got to understand this. This is inconsistent with the way in which attorneys general and justice departments have acted in the past. And that means Republican as well as Democratic justice departments, Republican as well as Democratic attorneys general.
So let's get to the real reason we're here this morning. Everywhere we go, and you guys are deeply involved in this, we hear about not only concerns this year with voting, but concerns systemically and endemically in our society. with voting. I mean, I guess let's start here. There's so many places we could start, but let's start just kind of big picture there. The president is trying to sow kind of confusion and fear about mail-in balloting, about all sorts of different forms of voting. What are Democrats doing? What are you guys doing to try to ensure, both nationally, Attorney General Holder, and in South Carolina, Mr. Clyburn, about the security of this election and the security of the ballot box?
Well, I'll yield to the,
all right.
to the
Well,
national thought.
Well, what we're trying to do nationally is at the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, we're working with a variety of groups to ensure election security in a bunch of ways. First of all, to make sure that people have the ability to cast votes in using the mails, if that's what they want to do, go to the polls if that's what they want to do. And so we're working with our partners in a variety of states. I'm also working with the Biden campaign to make sure that we are doing all that we can, coordinating efforts with the groups, again, to make sure that people can have a good experience if they are when they try to vote. But what we're up against is almost unprecedented. We don't have the Justice Department as allies in this effort in a way that you might expect. And the Trump administration has made a determination, and the Republican Party, I think more generally, has made the determination that they are going to do all that they can to make it as difficult as is possible for people to cast a ballot, whether it is in person or by the use of the mails. It seems to me that they are afraid of the very people who they say that they want to lead.
Well, let me tell you about the state effort. Just after Labor Day, I went very public with a program which I hope will become a national program. We started this several years ago, something I call Adopt a Precinct. Here's what we decided to do here in South Carolina. We just decided that though November 3rd is election day, that we were going to make October election month. We started yesterday what we call absentee voting early here in South Carolina. And this year, rather than the 17 reasons you had to give in order to vote early, the legislature decided because of COVID-19, everybody can vote absentee starting October 5th, irrespective of your reasons. So we are organized what we call precinct by precinct, asking churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, asking fraternities, sororities, community groups, Masonic orders to start now adopting precincts. Many of them started 30 days ago. And we're going precinct by precinct, trying to get people to vote absentee in person, because we know that the mail cannot be trusted, especially in rural communities where they are now running very short because of what this administration has done. They are trying to suppress the vote, and I think they've been very successful in the past. We are going to make sure that we do what is necessary to circumvent that suppression this time. And I feel good about what happened here in South Carolina on yesterday, and it's going to be like this every day throughout the month of October. We plan to vote 60 to 65% of our eligible voters in person before November 3rd.
I want to ask, the Democrats have focused so much on this absentee voting. One of the perennial issues for voting in person is people having to wait in line or being able to get to the polls because they close, because they have to work. How big of a problem is this in the pandemic? And can you speak to how big of a problem this might be, Attorney General, for Black voters in urban areas?
Yeah, this is clearly a problem. I mean, after the Shelby County decision in 2013 that essentially gutted the Voting Rights Act, Republicans around the country have closed about 1,700 polling places to make it more difficult to cast a ballot in person. So we're trying to stress to people that, we talk about flattening the curve when it comes to the virus. What I've been telling people is we need to flatten the curve when it comes to our voting procedures, and people need to vote early, if at all possible. Use all of the days that we have, as Congressman Clyburn has just described, to cast a ballot early. And if you're going to vote by mail, do it early. If you're going to vote in person, do it early. We have brought lawsuits, the National Democratic Redistricting Committee in North Carolina, in Texas, and in Minnesota, to try to do away with some of the unnecessary requirements that people have to go through in order to cast a ballot by mail, and also to ensure that the experience in casting an early ballot is one that will be free of the kinds of suppressive techniques that the Republican Party has become so expert at.
I wonder, Mr. Holder, if you could just, one of the things that, and this is asking you to draw on your expertise a little bit here, but one of the things that we get asked all the time is, how do these election challenges unfold? What does it look like if the Trump campaign says no? I know it's a state by state issue, but I'm wondering if you could just help people understand a little bit more what the November 4th world looks like. And what is on your mind about November 4th is basically the question I want to ask you, because you and Mr. Clyburn know so much more than we do and than most people do about what lies after Election Day.
Well, I think there are a couple of things. Certainly, you want to try to anticipate which the Republicans are doing around the country, get into court if there is a mechanism there to try to undo that which they are doing that will be unfair. And then also try to make sure that you are tactically doing things, as Congressman Clyburn said, getting people to vote early, that 65% number. The reality is this is going to be difficult. And we have to face that. The Republicans have made this difficult. It doesn't have to be this way forever. And if we are successful at the state and local level, which is one of the things that I'm working on, this could be the last time we will have such a difficult election. But this one's going to be hard, but it is not one that we can't overcome. And so I'm urging people, as I said, to vote early as soon as you possibly can. And in the meantime, to the extent that we have the ability to get into court to undo the things that Republicans have put in place, either legislatively or tactics that they are trying to use, we're going to be doing that as well.
Congressman Clyburn, how concerned are you that we wake up the day after the election and we don't know who the president is? It seems like that's more and more of a likely scenario, given the number of absentee voting that's happened through the mail and the different rules by the state, some of which you can't even start opening ballots until Election Day. Is there anything that you think Democratic leaders need to do to calm people's nerves about the future of this country, and if we don't know who is necessarily going to be the leader of it?
Well, I spent all of my life trying to do the things I think are necessary in order to achieve my goals. I don't spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out the what ifs. What I try to do is work as hard as I possibly can to achieve those goals. And in order for us to achieve the goals of getting everybody to vote and have their vote counted, I'm spending all of my time getting people to vote early in person. And I believe if we were to do this, if we are successful, then I think that we are going to know who the next president will be by 2 a.m. The morning of November 4th. I don't think anybody's going to have to spend a whole lot of time on during the day on November the 4th doing anything else but celebrating or mourning. I don't think we're going to be waiting to find out who the winner is. I sincerely believe that we are going to be successful with this national effort of voting early in person.
Mr. Clyburn, I'm curious what, if Democrats win the Senate, which is certainly possible, and win the White House, which is certainly possible, bordering unlikely at this point, what will House Democrats do in this realm to fix what you're describing as pretty serious problems with voting across the country? What are some of those action items that you should be doing legislatively in an all Democratic Washington?
As it relates to voting, the very first thing we're going to do is revisit what we now call the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act. And I have my staff looking at what we've done already. As you know, we passed it as H.R. 4, sent it over to the Senate, and then we went back after John's death, and we renamed it. And now we're looking at what we need to do to address some of the issues that are showing up now, like this whole issue of whether or not we can vote by mail. I believe very strongly that we have got to go to massive registrations. We do everything else online. We go to the grocery stores online. We now order our groceries. If you can do it online, purchase groceries, you can cast your vote. You can register people to vote online. I think that we need to have a national strategy of getting people registered to vote, getting them engaged in the process, and getting them to vote. And there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with voting online. 4 states, at least 4 states, I think, do all of their voting by mail. And they've been doing it for years. And I've been telling everybody that I am a big fan of the Colorado model. And I have been pushing that as a national model. And that's what I would like to see us do in legislation immediately come January 5th or 6th, whatever the date is.
Attorney General, kind of keeping on that forward-looking lens, you focus a lot of your time on redistricting and the fight to redraw congressional districts that Republicans successfully gerrymandered after 2010. How optimistic are you that Democrats are going to be making some big inroads to changes to these congressional districts after the 2020 census?
Oh, I'm actually very optimistic. I mean, given the
Well,
fact—
I don't know.
We'll go with the Attorney General first. Thanks.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that I'm actually very optimistic given the work that we've done since January of 2017 when we announced the formation of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. And we've been focusing on this problem of gerrymandering. We have brought lawsuits. We have supported candidates who will stand for a fair redistricting process in 2021. We've actually supported the formation of these nonpartisan commissions and have put them in place in Michigan, Missouri, Utah, in Colorado. We already have them in Arizona and in California. So that the process in 2021, I think, is going to be fundamentally different than the process was in 2011. We're going to be more conversant with the use of technology, up-to-date technology in 2021 than we were in 2011. So I think we are in a fundamentally better place. And what I always say is that, the NDRC, Democrats are really fighting for a fair process in 2021. Because I'm convinced if the process is just fair, I don't have to gerrymander for Democrats. If the process is just fair, Democrats, progressives will do just fine. It is the Republicans who have to try to gerrymander in 2021 to try to maintain the power that they illegitimately got in 2011, where in Wisconsin, Democrats get 54% of the vote, get 1/3 of the seats. And you see that in other states as well, those kinds of numbers. We just need a fair process. And as I said, the Democrats will do just fine. I'm very optimistic that the process will be okay in 2021.
Mr. Clyburn, you have a very competitive Senate race in your state. Your former aide, Jamie Harrison, is running against Lindsey Graham, someone you've served with for now, 20-something years. Could you just give us your back of the napkin? You know that as everybody, all of our watchers know today, you know that state better than anybody. What is going on, and is Lindsey Graham going to be knocked off? How confident are you of that?
Well, I'm so proud of Jamie. As many people know, Jamie came into my life as an 11th grader there at Onsbury-Wilson High School. And I have not been able to get rid of him since. He's just a remarkable young man. He's run just a class act in this campaign. And Jamie, during that debate last Saturday night, I think the rest of the country got to see what I have seen in Jamie since he was a teenager. He is running a campaign that I think is going to be successful. Not a single soul alive believed when he announced for the Senate that he would be sitting here 30 days out, 48-48. And I've seen a poll that has him 2 points in the lead, although I've seen him a poll that has him 1 point behind. Jamie is running a great race. I think things are breaking in his favor. If we get the kind of turnout that we are working on here in South Carolina, and we get these precincts adopted, and everybody will do what they are promising to do, Jamie is going to win that race. And I think it has a lot to do with how good he's run the campaign, but it also has a lot to do with the hypocrisy of Lindsey Graham. And too many people are sick and tired of this kind of stuff. And when he looked into the camera and says, "Hold my words against me," we are going to really address him as he invited.
All right, we are quickly running out of time. Unfortunately, we could talk about a lot of these issues for a long time, but before we let you go, Mr. Holder, I want to ask you, you considered running for president in 2020 before ultimately taking a pass. Do you still have any desire to run for office?
Once DC has become a state, I'll think about running for senator.
And would you consider joining a Biden administration?
You know, you never want to say never. On the other hand, I was quite happy with my time as Attorney General in the Obama years, and at this point, I'm kind of happy just being the chairman of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee. I still have to make sure that we have that fair process come 2021.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are all out of time. Congressman Clyburn and Attorney General Holder, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you to everyone who joined us this morning virtually. We look forward to holding another one of these Playbook interview election countdowns soon. Please stay safe and have a great rest of the week.